There is a quiet comfort in obedience. It offers clarity in a confusing world, relief from doubt, and protection from responsibility. When someone else decides, we are spared the burden of judgment. Hannah Arendt understood this comfort deeply, and she warned that it is precisely this comfort that makes obedience so dangerous. Obedience feels safe, not because it is right, but because it allows people to stop thinking. Thinking is demanding. It interrupts routines and exposes contradictions. It forces individuals to confront uncertainty and risk isolation. Obedience, by contrast, promises order. It tells people where to stand, what to do, and how to behave. It removes ambiguity, and for many, that removal feels like safety. Arendt saw that when societies value obedience over thinking, they create conditions where harm can spread without resistance. The appeal of obedience lies in its simplicity. It replaces moral questions with instructions. Instead of asking, "Is this just?" people ask, "Is this permitted?" Instead of asking, "Should I do this?" they ask, "Is this required?" In this shift, moral responsibility quietly disappears. The individual no longer sees themselves as the author of their actions, but as a link in a chain. And chains, by design, move without reflection. Arendt believed that the most dangerous systems are not those that rely solely on terror, but those that normalize compliance. When obedience becomes routine, it stops feeling like a choice. It feels like necessity. People begin to believe that disobedience is reckless, irresponsible, or even immoral. Thinking, in such environments, is reframed as a threat to stability rather than a foundation of ethics. What makes obedience so seductive is that it offers belonging. To obey is to align oneself with the group, the institution, the authority. It provides identity and reassurance. To think independently, however, often means standing alone. It can mean questioning shared assumptions, challenging respected figures, and risking exclusion. For many, the fear of isolation outweighs the discomfort of compliance. Arendt warned that this fear is a powerful force. When people prioritize acceptance over judgment, they begin to measure their actions not by conscience, but by approval. The question shifts from, "Can I live with myself?" to, "Will others accept this?" And once external validation replaces inner dialogue, morality becomes fragile. It depends on trends, norms, and power structures rather than reflection. Obedience also feels safer because it distributes guilt. When everyone follows orders, no one feels fully responsible. Harm becomes collective and therefore invisible. Each person tells themselves that their role is small, insignificant, replaceable. But Arendt rejected this logic entirely. She insisted that responsibility does not dissolve when it is shared. On the contrary, it becomes more urgent. The true danger appears when obedience becomes a virtue in itself. When people are praised not for judgment, but for loyalty, not for courage, but for compliance. In such cultures, thinking becomes suspicious. Questions are seen as disruptions. Doubt is treated as weakness. And those who refuse to obey are labeled problematic rather than principled. Arendt observed that in these conditions, people do not feel coerced. They feel normal. They wake up, go to work, fulfill expectations, and return home believing they have done their duty. Evil does not appear as cruelty, but as routine. It is carried out by people who believe they are simply being responsible. That belief is what makes obedience so powerful and so destructive. Thinking, by contrast, offers no such comfort. It creates pauses where action is expected. It raises questions that do not have easy answers. It demands that individuals confront the possibility that they are wrong and it carries consequences. A thinking person may have to refuse, to resist, or to step away. That choice can cost status, security, and belonging. Obedience avoids these costs. It promises safety through silence. But Arendt argued that this safety is an illusion. Obedience does not protect individuals from moral responsibility. It only delays its recognition. The consequences of obedience do not disappear, they accumulate. And when they finally become visible, it is often too late to undo them. Achi, that moment people ask, how things went so wrong without anyone intending harm. Arendt's answer was unsettlingly simple. People stopped thinking. The tragedy is that obedience often feels moral. It is framed as discipline, respect, and order. Thinking, meanwhile, is framed as arrogance or rebellion. This inversion allows harmful systems to persist without constant force. People police themselves. They silence their doubts. They internalize commands. And the absence of resistance becomes proof of legitimacy. Arendt believed that thinking is not about intelligence or education. It is about the willingness to engage in an inner dialogue, to ask oneself whether an action aligns with one's values, to imagine the consequences beyond immediate duties, to recognize that being told to do something does not absolve one from judging it. This kind of thinking is slow, uncomfortable, and deeply human. The modern world, however, discourages this slowness. Speed, efficiency, and productivity are rewarded. Reflection is seen as delay. In such an environment, obedience becomes even more attractive. It allows people to move quickly without questioning direction. Without prejudice, thought progress momentum. And momentum can carry societies toward outcomes no one consciously chose. Arendt did not claim that thinking guarantees moral perfection. Thinking individuals can still make terrible choices, but she insisted that thoughtlessness guarantees vulnerability. A society that stops thinking does not become neutral. It becomes available. Available to ideologies, systems, and authorities that promise certainty in exchange for compliance. The most unsettling realization is that obedience often feels like the responsible option. It feels mature, realistic, and safe. Thinking feels risky, naive, and disruptive. But history, as Arendt understood it, shows that the greatest dangers arise not from too much thinking, but from its absence. From the quiet decision to let others decide what should never be decided without conscience. If this reflection resonates, it may be because you recognize moments where obedience felt easier than thought. That recognition matters. It is the beginning of responsibility. Hannah Arendt believed that the simple act of thinking, of pausing to judge rather than comply, is a form of resistance. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think obedience is rewarded more than thinking in society today? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this video challenged the way you see responsibility, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Because thinking may be uncomfortable, but obedience is far more dangerous.